Okay, so before we jump in, I want you to just close your eyes for a second. We're going to start this deep dive, not with a fact or a number, but with a feeling, a really specific atmosphere.
I like it. Set the scene.
You're sitting on a back porch. It's in California. It's night. And the temperature is that, that perfect 68 degrees.
The best temperature.
Exactly. It's crisp. The heat of the day is gone, but the cold hasn't really settled in. You don't need a jacket, but you feel the air on your skin. The moon's out. You've got these long, silvery shadows everywhere. And there's a smell.
Okay, and I'm guessing it's not jasmine or roses.
No, it's the smell of a skunk. But here's the wild part. Our source for today, a woman named Karen, she describes this with a kind of reverence.
Not discuss.
Not at all. She's just sitting there. The skunk smell is mixing with the night air, and she is completely, utterly at peace with it. She's not running inside. She's not panicking. She's just there, in it.
You know, that one detail, the skunk, that's actually the perfect doorway into what we're talking about today. It tells you immediately that we're dealing with someone who doesn't live in that, that sanitized, hermetically sealed world that most of us inhabit now.
Right.
She lives on the boundary, that liminal space where the domestic world meets the feral, the wild.
Exactly. We're looking at a series of voice memos that Karen sent us, and honestly, calling them voice memos feels like a total disservice. They're more like oral histories. They feel like chapters of this incredible Gothic memoir that just hasn't been written down yet. Because Karen isn't just a woman who likes animals. She's a woman who, while raising 3 human children in the suburbs, integrated a fully functioning pack of wolves into her family.
And we need to be really, really precise with our language here.
Okay.
We aren't talking about wolf dogs in the way people usually mean, like, a husky with a bit of an attitude.
Right, not just a big dog.
No, we are talking about high-content animals, apex predators.
Sure.
And we're talking about a woman who didn't just own them, that's the wrong word. She entered into their psychological and social contract. She became part of the pack.
She has actually been called the woman who runs with wolves, which is, a clear nod to that literary archetype. And that's really the mission for our deep dive today. I want to unpack that title. I want to understand the spirit of a woman who can look 100-pound timber wolf in the eye and just say, I am the mother here. Because when you listen to her, you realize this isn't a story about pets. It's a story about, about courage, about fearlessness.
It's a case study in interspecies psychology, for sure, but it's so much more than that. It's really a theological and philosophical exploration of what it means to have dominion.
Dominion, not dominate.
Exactly. That's the key distinction. Domination is about force, brute strength. But dominion, that's a kind of spiritual authority. To integrate a wolf pack into a human family requires a level of intuition and, frankly, assertiveness that most people today, that muscle has completely atrophied.
We've lost it.
We've lost it.
So let's go back. Let's start at the beginning. The origin story, if you will.
The call to adventure.
Yes. So Karen is a young mother. And I mean young. She has a baby, Lisa, who is still in diapers. And her husband at the time, we're just going to call him the ex, he comes home one day with this wild idea. He's been looking into wolf hybrids.
Okay, let's pause right there for a second. Think about the timeline of a young family. The baby in diapers phase.
Yeah.
What defines that period?
Oh, safety, 100%. You're baby-proofing everything. You're putting covers on outlets, patting the sharp corners of coffee tables. You are in a state of high protection and extremely low risk.
Your entire world shrinks down to keeping this tiny, fragile human alive.
Right. If my partner had come home when our kid was in diapers and said, honey, let's go look at some wolves, I would have suggested therapy immediately.
Not Karen.
Not Karen. She just says, that sounds cool, let's go. And they don't just, drive to the next town over. They pack up the baby, diapers and all, and drive 7 hours north to Auburn, California.
That 7-hour drive is so significant. It's not just a trip, it's a pilgrimage. It signals that call to adventure that Joseph Campbell talks about. But it also shows, and this is key, a profound lack of what we'd call modern neurosis.
Yeah.
I mean, to take an infant on a 7-hour car ride into the mountains to go see a pack of predators, that suggests a deep, abiding trust in her own competence and a trust in the world itself that is just, it's incredibly rare today.
So they get to Auburn. It's mountainous, it's wooded, high elevation, and before they even see the breeder's house, they hear it.
The howl.
The howl. And Karen's description is perfect. She says it was eerie and beautiful and that it gave her chills. But not the get me out of here kind of chills.
Yeah.
It was the I need to get closer to this kind of chill.
Okay, let's break that down both biologically and psychologically. A wolf howl is completely different from a dog bark. It contains infrasound.
Infrasound.
Yeah, very low frequency vibrations that can travel for miles. When a human nervous system registers that, it triggers the amygdala. It's an ancient evolutionary alarm bell. It's hardwired into us to say, warning, something much bigger and more dangerous than you is nearby.
So for most people, the response would be fear.
An instinctual repulsion or, an impulse to hide. The fact that Karen felt beauty in that sound, that she was drawn toward it, it suggests her own internal frequency was already tuned to that wildness.
Yeah.
She wasn't hearing a threat. She was hearing a language that, on some deep level, she already understood and wanted to learn.
Wow. So they meet the breeder, they get the big safety lecture, which must have been just surreal, with a toddler wobbling around their feet.
I can't even imagine.
And they see the puppies. Now, usually when people pick out a puppy from a litter, what do? They pick the one that runs up and licks their face, the sweet one, the follower.
We select for submission. We absolutely do. We want a pet that affirms our own ego by, obeying us. It makes us feel in charge.
Karen and her husband do the exact opposite. They look at this litter and they identify the dominant male, the alpha. He's a timber wolf and Malamute mix, 89% wolf.
And we really need to explain what 89% wolf means, because there's so much marketing fluff and, frankly, misinformation in the breeder world.
Okay, break it down.
Genetically, that's what we call a high-content hybrid.
Yeah.
At 89%, the phenotype, which is the physical expression of those genes, is almost entirely wolf. The behavior is wolf. The digestion is wolf. The skull shape, the jaw pressure, the social instincts, it's all wolf. The small percentage of dog DNA is basically a rounding error at that point. You are not getting a dog.
And they take him. They name him Turok. Karen just says the name came to her. It felt cool. It felt right.
Turok is phonetically very strong. It has two hard consonants. It's a name that commands attention when you say it. The naming is the first act of defining what this relationship is going to be.
And that relationship, it gets complicated very, very fast. They get Turok home, and Karen realizes almost immediately that all the dog training manuals, all the books, they're useless.
Throw them out the window.
Completely. She says, and this is a direct quote, "You don't walk them on a leash, you don't control them, you coexist."
And that is the absolute fundamental difference between a domestic dog and a wolf. For 10,000 years, a dog has been bred to look to a human face for guidance, for approval. We have co-evolved.
Right.
A wolf does not look to you for guidance. A wolf looks at you to assess two things: your utility to the pack or your threat level. So to coexist, you can't just be the owner. You have to enter into a political agreement.
A political agreement with an animal.
Yes. It's a hierarchy. It's a constant moment-to-moment negotiation of power. And if you are not the one in charge, if you are not the government in that tiny nation state, then you become the subject.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground.
Well, the coup attempt then happened pretty quickly.
As it had to.
Turok hits adolescence. He's about 90 pounds at this point. He's big, he's strong, full of hormones, and he starts testing her. He starts pacing around her, staring at her.
And that stare is not an act of affection. In the wild, a prolonged, direct stare is an act of aggression. It's a challenge. He's sizing her up. He's measuring her.
And then we get to the moment that I think defines Karen's entire story. The moment that set the terms for the rest of her life. The peeing incident.
It sounds so crude when you say it like that, but it's actually an incredibly sophisticated biological declaration.
Okay, set the scene for us. Karen is sitting on the ground in her yard. This is important. It puts her at Turok's eye level, maybe even a little below. It's a vulnerable position.
Gary.
She feels him walk up behind her. She can feel his presence, that heavy breathing right by her ear. And then she feels warmth, a wetness spreading across her back. He is urinating on her.
Let's analyze the semiotics of that act. What is being communicated?
Yeah.
In the wolf world, scent is the primary language. It's their version of written law. By marking her with his urine, Turok is not just being rude or naughty.
No.
He is claiming her as his property. He is stating unequivocally, "You are a resource within my territory. I own you. You are beneath me in the hierarchy." It is a complete and total usurpation of her authority and her autonomy.
Her husband had warned her. He'd said, if he ever tests you, whatever you do, do not show fear. If you show fear, you lose the game. Forever.
He was right.
So just pause and put yourself in her shoes. You're a young mother. A 90-pound apex predator has just desecrated you, is standing over you. The smell of wolf urine, which Karen says is incredibly pungent and musky, way stronger than a dog's, is filling your senses. Your adrenaline must be just a charts.
The fight, flight, or freeze response is triggered instantly. Most modern civilized humans would freeze, they'd lock up in sheer terror, or they would choose flight. They'd scream and jump up and run away.
And what happens if she runs?
If she runs, she confirms his assessment. She is prey, and he chases her, and he mauls her. That's how it ends. If she freezes, she accepts the submission. She becomes his subordinate for the rest of their lives. She becomes the Omega. Her children would never be safe.
Karen chooses option C.
Violence.
Controlled, calculated violence.
Yes, that's the key. It wasn't panicked.
She says she just spun around. She sweeps his legs out from under him. Now, have you ever tried to knock a big dog off its feet? It's not easy. They have a low center of gravity. They're stable.
It's nearly impossible.
She uses pure adrenaline and, I guess, technique to knock this 90-pound animal onto its side. She pins him to the ground.
She is entering his Umwelt.
His what? I've never heard that word.
His Umwelt. It's a concept from a biosemiotician named Jacob von Exkel. The Umwelt is the unique self-world of an organism, the bubble of sensory experience that it lives in.
Okay.
See, a wolf doesn't understand English. Yelling "bad boy" at him is meaningless noise. A wolf understands leverage. It understands gravity. It understands pressure and sound. By sweeping his legs and pinning him, Karen instantly stepped out of the human world of manners and words and into the wolf world of pure physics.
And she describes digging her fingers deep into the fur of his neck. Not gently. She's digging her fingers into his skin. She puts her face inches from his snout, which is terrifying. I mean, his jaws are right there. And she growls.
And that growl is everything. It's a guttural, primal sound from her diaphragm. And if there had been even the slightest tremor of fear in that growl, Turok would have known.
He would have sensed it.
He would have smelled the cortisol on her skin.
Yeah.
He would have heard the tiny waver in her voice, and he would have ripped her throat out.
So why didn't he attack?
Because she wasn't bluffing. In that one critical moment, Karen tapped into something ancient in her own DNA. She bypassed her civilized brain and accessed her own inner predator. She became the alpha. And Turok recognized the absolute authenticity of her rage. He realized, oh, this is not prey. This is a rival, and she is winning.
And he submitted.
He peed on himself.
Which is the ultimate white flag in the dog world, right?
It's the ultimate sign of submission. He is marking himself as subordinate to her. The entire power structure was inverted in that one violent instant. Karen was now the queen.
And the craziest part is this didn't break their relationship. She says it forged it. It made it stronger.
That is the great paradox of the wild, isn't it? Clear, established boundaries create safety. Once Turok knew, without a doubt, that Karen was the alpha, he could relax. He didn't have to carry the burden of leadership anymore. He could trust her to protect the pack. And that brings us back to that theological concept of dominion.
Right.
What she did wasn't abuse. She didn't beat him with a stick. She spoke his language to establish a covenant, a contract based on mutual respect. She said through her actions, I am dangerous enough to lead you. And because she did that, Turok respected her children. The cubs of the pack were safe, because the alpha mother had declared them safe.
An incredible story. So the hierarchy is set, and the pack starts to grow. They realize pretty quickly that you can't have a lone wolf. It's not natural for them. So they go back to the breeder.
Of course.
They get a second one, a Canadian Mackenzie wolf, a red wolf mix that they name Kenya. They start having litters. And Karen's life completely transforms. She's not just a pet owner anymore. She becomes a fully permitted sanctuary operator. We're talking fish and game inspections, 6-foot-high chain link fences, the whole legal 9 yards.
Her life is no longer her own. It's in service to the pack. She's become the keeper of the pack.
But I want to talk about the aesthetic shift that happens next, because we've been talking about the very earthy, powerful timber wolf vibe of Turok. But then a totally different kind of animal enters the picture, the Arctic wolf.
Kona.
Kona, Karen calls her Snow White. And the way she describes her, it just changes the whole temperature of the story. Turok is all mud and muscle and earth. Kona is like a ghost.
We're moving from the element of earth to the element of ether. The Arctic wolf has evolved for this blindingly white, spare landscape of the tundra.
Yeah.
So when you see one in a California backyard, that pure whiteness is startling. It looks artificial. It looks almost divine.
And Karen describes this one image that is just seared into my brain. There's a 6-foot-high brick wall around the enclosure, and the top of this wall is maybe 6 inches wide, a tiny ledge. Kona would stand at the bottom of the wall, squat down, and just levitate.
That vertical power, it's astounding.
She would spring straight up 6 feet in the air and land perfectly on all fours on that narrow little ledge. And then, and this is the craziest part, she wouldn't jump down. She would just stand there, perfectly still, like a statue, just watching the world.
This is where we touch on a philosophical concept called the sublime.
The sublime.
Yes. The sublime is an aesthetic experience that combines overwhelming beauty with a sense of terror or wild power. So imagine seeing that.
Yeah.
This pure white wolf, seemingly suspended in midair on a narrow wall, completely silent, just staring at you. It's beautiful, yes, but it's also deeply unnerving. It's a reminder that you are looking at a perfect killing machine that moves with the impossible grace of a ballerina.
Karen said Kona was.
Yeah.
The word she used was sketchy. She didn't like the husband, which, we'll get to this later, turned out to be a very, very good judge of character.
Animals always know.
But she loved Karen. And their relationship wasn't about wrestling matches and power dynamics like it was with Turok. It was about stillness.
What some theologians call the ministry of presence.
Explain that. What do you mean?
Well, Karen describes going into the pen and just sitting for hours at a time, not doing anything, just being present. And eventually, Kona would come over and lay her head in Karen's lap. Now, think about the mental state required for that to happen.
Okay.
Wolves are hypersensitive to anxiety, to our inner state. If Karen was sitting there worrying about the bills or what to make for dinner or the kids, her heart rate would be variable. Her scent would be acrid with stress hormones. Kona would not have approached her.
So Karen basically had to meditate.
Essentially, yes. She had to empty herself out. She had to become a pool of stillness for the wolf to feel safe. To have a wild animal willingly rest its head on you is a powerful biological feedback mechanism. It is the animal telling you your soul is at peace right now. That's a profound spiritual discipline.
It sounds like it was a sanctuary for Karen just as much as it was for the wolves.
I think it had to be.
But as is so often the case with wild things, especially in captivity, there's a fragility there. Kona only lived for 3 or 4 years. She died very suddenly, maybe an illness, maybe an accident. It's unclear. And Karen was just devastated.
You know the saying, the flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long? The Arctic wolves, they often seem more ethereal, but also more fragile when they're not in their native climate. But that loss created a vacuum. And as we know, nature abhors a vacuum.
Which leads us directly to the Shasta Pack. And this is the part of the story where Karen shifts from being, a person with a cool, intense hobby to being a full-on rescuer. This is the action movie section of the deep dive.
The ethics of rescue.
Karen gets a phone call. It's an emergency. There's an older woman up in Mount Shasta, which is way, way up in Northern California, who has her own wolf pack, but she's also raising her grandson. And the state has stepped in. Child Protective Services, or maybe the county, has given her an ultimatum.
Oh, no.
Get rid of the wolves immediately, or we take the boy into foster care.
Wow. What a moral dilemma. A real Sophie's choice. She's being forced to choose between her animals and her human family.
And Karen she steps up. Without hesitation, she says, I'll take them. But you have to listen to the logistics of this. Karen is a mom. At this point, she has Lisa, Lori, and now a baby boy, Brian. She packs all 3 kids into her SUV.
I'm just picturing the scene inside that car. Car seats, Cheerios crushed into the floor, sippy cups rolling around.
The quintessential mom car. And she drives 10 hours. 10 hours. With 3 small children. To go pick up a pack of full-grown, traumatized, stressed-out wolves.
This creates such a fascinating juxtaposition. You have the ultimate symbol of the domestic, the minivan, the kids, the whole soccer mom aesthetic, and it is colliding head-on with the primal.
When she gets to the house, again, it's the sound first. She hears them howling before she even pulls into the driveway. She says these were huge animals, and she has to somehow get them to crates, load them into the vehicle with her children, and drive 10 hours back home.
This is the heroine's journey in a suburban wrapper. It completely shatters the stereotype of the suburban mother. A normal mother protects her children by keeping them away from danger. Karen is a different kind of protector. She protects the world by managing the danger. She's integrating the shadow of the wolves into the family vehicle itself. It's a mythic image. A woman driving a chariot of wolves with her baby sleeping peacefully in the back.
So she gets them all home, And now she's facing a sociological nightmare. She has Turok's established pack, the home team, and now the Shasta pack, the intruders.
You can't just mix two established packs like that. That's a declaration of war.
So she has to build new fences, new enclosures. She says she had to rotate them in the yard like they were prison inmates. She manages the complex politics of two rival nations in her own backyard for years. She gives them a good life until they all eventually pass away from old age.
It just demonstrates her capacity for expansion, her territory. Her heart just kept getting bigger and bigger to accommodate whatever need arose.
But time is undefeated, right? The Shasta pack eventually dies off. Her original pups get old and pass away. The pack dwindles. And eventually, Karen is left without any wolves. And she describes this deep, aching loneliness that set in.
Which sets the stage for what is, to me, the most mystical and, frankly, the most unbelievable part of her entire story.
Section 4. The call.
The psychologist Carl Jung would have a field day with this. He'd call it synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that simply cannot be explained by normal cause and effect.
So it's years later, Karen is driving through Pomona. Now, for anyone who doesn't know the area, Pomona is not the wilderness. It's industrial, it's concrete, freeways, smog.
The opposite of a wolf habitat.
Exactly. She's driving past an animal shelter, and she gets hit with this impulse, a feeling she describes as a physical command. Stop, go in.
And she tries to rationalize it away. She's thinking, okay, maybe I'll just look. Maybe I'll just get a dog, a normal dog.
She goes in. She walks the kennels. It's loud, chaotic. Dogs are barking, jumping against the cages. It smells like bleach and fear. She walks up and down every single aisle. She doesn't see anything, doesn't feel a connection. She gives up. She walks out to the parking lot. She is literally reaching for her car door handle. And then
she freezes.
A sound cuts through all the noise of the traffic and the barking dogs. A long, low, lonesome howl.
And this is where her deep expertise comes in. A normal person might just hear a dog howling. But Karen knows the frequency. She knows the timbre. She knows in her bones that is not a dog. That is a wolf.
So she stops, she turns around, she goes back inside the shelter, she walks the aisles again, looking desperately. Nothing, just pit bulls and shepherds. And she starts to think she's losing her mind. She's thinking, I miss them so much that I'm actually hallucinating their sound.
Auditory pareidolia.
Yeah.
Your brain is hearing what it wants to hear.
She gives up again. She walks back out to her car. And the second she steps away from the building, the howl comes again. It's a call and response. But she's the one being called.
It's the theology of deep calling unto deep. The spirit of that animal is somehow reaching out to the only person in a 50-mile radius who has the ability to understand its language.
She finally realizes where the sound has to be coming from. It's from behind a door marked "Do Not Enter," the isolation ward, the kill kennel.
The bureaucracy of death, the place where the unadoptable animals, the difficult cases, go to be euthanized.
So what does she do? She doesn't knock on the door. She doesn't go find a manager. She stands in the middle of the parking lot, and she howls.
Just stop and visualize this for a second. A woman standing on the hot asphalt of an industrial park, surrounded by cars and noise, throwing her head back and howling like a wolf. It is absurd, it is crazy, and it is absolutely magnificent.
She howls, and the wolf inside answers her. So she triangulates the sound, she finds the specific door it's coming from, she grabs an employee, an older man, and she just begs him, "Please, you have to let me see the dog in the back." He says no. She persists. Finally, he cracks the door open for her.
And there it is.
She looks into the cage, and this animal stands up. It drops its head low, that same submissive, acknowledging posture we talked about earlier, and it looks, in her words, right through her.
That gaze. That's the moment of recognition. It's the animal saying, "Oh, there you are. I called you and you came."
But it's not over. The shelter worker tells her, "You can't have this animal. It's a wolf. It's already on the kill list. We have to put it down tomorrow."
Oh, God.
Karen has to race against the clock. She has to drive all the way home, find her federal permits, her old sanctuary license, and drive all the way back. And she says the hardest part of the whole thing was walking away that first time, because as she left to go get the papers, the wolf started screaming.
It wasn't howling for help anymore. It was panicking. It was screaming, "Don't leave me here."
She makes it back just in time. She slaps the papers down on the desk. She saves its life. And when she finally gets the animal out of the shelter and into the sunlight, she sees it clearly for the first time. It is another Arctic wolf. Pure white. And Karen starts to wonder, is this reincarnation? Is it Kona, her first Arctic wolf, come back to her?
You know, whether it's literal reincarnation is a question for the theologians to debate.
Yeah.
But symbolically? Symbolically, absolutely. It is the closing of a circle. The universe brought the white wolf back to her. It feels like a reward for her faithfulness to the call.
But this chapter, the chapter of Cheyenne, it's heavy. It's ultimately a tragedy.
But a necessary one, I think. A beautiful one.
So Cheyenne comes home, but she's too quiet. She's lethargic. Something's wrong. Karen takes her to the vet. And they discover that at some point before she ended up at the shelter, she had been hit by a car. She has a massive diaphragmatic hernia.
Oh, that's terrible.
Her stomach has been pushed up through a tear in her diaphragm into her chest cavity, and it's compressing her heart and lungs.
She was living on borrowed time from the moment Karen found her.
Karen pays for the surgery. It's expensive. It's incredibly risky. And for a moment, it looks like it worked. The surgeon repairs the hernia. But as they are closing her up, the vet releases the pressure in the chest cavity. And Cheyenne's heart, it just stops.
Arrhythmia. The sudden change in pressure was just too much of a shock to the system.
The vet is sobbing. She feels this immense guilt. She feels like she failed. But Karen, and this is the part that just floored me with her perspective, Karen hugs the vet, and she says, no, this was a good death.
That phrase, a good death, that is such a profound ethical and a philosophical stance to take in that moment. Karen reframed the entire narrative.
How so?
If she hadn't howled in that parking lot, that wolf would have died alone, terrified, on a cold concrete floor in Pomona. Instead, because of Karen, Cheyenne had one perfect month of luxury. She slept on a soft bed, she ate steak, she was held, she was loved, she knew safety.
So Karen basically traded the pain of her own grief for that wolf's month of dignity?
Precisely. She prioritized the quality of the connection over the quantity of the time. And that is the ultimate act of love. To be willing to say, I will accept the immense hurt of losing you so that you do not have to die alone and afraid.
That whole concept of justice, of what is right, what is a good death, it brings us to the darkest story in these memos, the story of the ex and Turok.
The justice of the wolf, as it were.
So years have passed since the beginning of the story. Karen and her husband, the ex, are divorced, and he is spiraling. There's alcoholism, homelessness. But for whatever reason, custody arrangements, or maybe just Karen's kindness, he has Turok with him for a period of time.
Which is already a recipe for absolute disaster. A high-content wolf needs stability above all else. A homeless alcoholic is the literal definition of instability.
So the husband decides to sneak Turok, again, this huge 100-pound timber wolf, into a motel room.
Bad idea number one.
And then he gets drunk.
Bad idea number two. And we can look at the science of why this went so horribly wrong. Wolves are masters of observation. They rely on consistency. They need to be able to predict the behavior of their packmates to feel safe.
Okay.
When a human gets drunk, their motor skills degrade. They stumble. Their speech slurs. Their scent profile changes. The chemical composition of their sweat actually changes as the body metabolizes alcohol.
So Turok is looking at his supposed master, and what does he see?
He sees a defect. He sees a creature that is behaving erratically, sick, or deranged. In the wild, a pack member that acts like that is a liability. They endanger the entire pack. Or they might even be seen as prey. It's the uncanny valley for a wolf. This thing looks like my alpha, but it acts like a sick, unpredictable animal.
And Turok attacks. And this is not a warning, Nip. Karen describes seeing her ex-husband afterwards. She said his face looked like 20 guys had jumped him. Bruises, deep lacerations. He was just destroyed.
It's brutal, visceral violence. But from the wolf's perspective, it's a corrective measure. Or, more likely, a rejection, an expulsion.
Karen frames it as a kind of poetic justice. This was a man who had violated the safety of their human family. He had violated the trust of the pack. And the wolf was the lie detector.
That's a perfect way to put it. The wolf requires authenticity. You can lie to your spouse, you can lie to your boss, you can lie to yourself, but you cannot lie to an animal that can literally hear your heartbeat and smell the fear on your skin. The husband was living a lie, hiding out in a motel, pretending to be okay while he was drunk. The wolf simply exposed the truth of his condition.
The noble animal rejected the ignoble man.
It's an almost biblical casting out. He was expelled from the pack because he was no longer worthy of being in it.
Wow. I want to end on a much lighter note, a moment of validation. Because for a long time, Karen probably felt like the neighborhood eccentric, right?
Yeah.
The crazy wolf lady.
Of course. We all seek a mirror, don't we? We all want someone, somewhere, to look at our life and say, I see you, I see what you're doing, and it has value.
Well, Karen has a friend in England, a man named David Vickers. And it turns out that David grew up on the very same street as the author Nicholas Evans.
The author who wrote The Horse Whisperer, a huge bestseller.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And Evans also wrote a book about wolves. Now, Karen remembers the title as She Who Runs with Wolves, but she admits her memory is a bit foggy on that.
She's probably conflating Evan's novel, which was called The Loop, with Clarissa Pinkola Esté's seminal book, Women Who Run with the Wolves.
Which is a perfect Freudian slip when you think about it.
It is.
Yeah.
Because she is the living embodiment of that archetype.
So her friend David arranges a gift for her. A book arrives in the mail for Karen. It's from the author. And the inscription, written by Nicholas Evans himself, reads, "To Karen, the woman who runs with wolves."
That is a coronation. That's what that is.
It's the moment where her private, crazy life is recognized as art, as literature. She isn't just a suburban mom with a weird, dangerous hobby. She is a character in a great American novel that just happens to be her own life.
And that validation is so crucial because it confirms that her intuition, the strange intuition that told her to drive to Auburn all those years ago, the one that told her to growl at Turok, the one that told her to howl in that parking lot, was correct all along. She was living out a mythic storyline.
Which brings us to today. Karen is still telling these stories, and at one point in her voice memo, she actually says, "I hope I'm not boring you." And I just wanted to reach through the speaker and gently shake her.
Boring us.
Boring us. Karen, you are one of the most fascinating human beings we have ever had the privilege of profiling.
Absolutely. We need to read her book. These voice memos are a treasure, but they need to be written down, preserved. She is a keeper of lost knowledge. She knows how to interact with the wild in a way that our society has paved over and forgotten.
So let's try to synthesize all this. Who is Karen? What has she shown us?
Well, she's a warrior. She fought the Alpha and she won. She's a mystic. She heard a call that no one else could hear. She's a healer. She rescued the condemned and gave the dying a good death. And above all, she's a mother. She raised her own children not to fear the wild, but to respect it and live alongside it.
She reminds us that the boundary between civilized and wild is really just a fence, and you can climb over that fence.
Or, like Kona the Arctic wolf, you can learn to stand on top of it.
So here's my final thought for you, our listener. We started this whole thing with the smell of a skunk on a back porch, with those small sensory details. Karen heard a howl in a noisy parking lot when no one else did. Her senses were tuned in.
And the question for all of us is, are we tuned in?
In your modern life, between the Zoom calls and the traffic and the endless phone notifications, have you lost the ability to hear the howl? If a wild, authentic call went out to you today, something dangerous and beautiful and true, would you even be able to hear it? Or would you just turn up the radio and keep driving?
It's a question worth sitting with. Maybe in the dark.
Maybe on a back porch. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into the incredible life of Karen, the woman who runs with wolves.
Stay wild.